how are you? Congratulations, graduate.
Thanks. Yeah, my goodness gracious. Yeah, I'm great. I feel really good. My gosh, like it's been such a transformation, Kate. Like it's crazy to me. I'm back in Boston this weekend. I came back for my 20th high school reunion. Um, and and so I decided to spend some time at the office that I came from. So I'm spending some time here and then spending some time with the family. And I'm realizing like the last time I was here was for the 4th of July. And it was then that I was like randomly scrolling through Facebook when I saw your posting and I was like, I'm just going to watch this 45-minute thing and we'll see what happens. And I just remember being like, wow, this is like totally speaking to me. I feel like I was in this place where I knew something just didn't feel right. And I'm so thankful that like I even came upon it. And I remember having the thought being like, Jen, you're on your vacation. Like, why are you going to listen to this 45-minute thing that's like kind of about like, I didn't really know what I was getting into, but it was like, it's clearly about your professional life. Like, why are you bothering doing this? And I remember thinking like, no, you know what? I feel like I need to lean into this a little bit. So I'm so glad I did.
I am too. Oh my gosh. Well, cool. Well, thank you for being here to share your story. And I would just love to please just be authentic, whatever from the heart, think of there's another Jen out there who's, having the same questions and things that were going on in your head. So just speak to her. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Cool. Just tell me based on what you just told me, like what was going on for you? Like what made you say, was there like a watershed moment or something where you said, there's something more or there's something different, something has to change? Was there anything like that going on for you?
So, it's funny. I think I've been thinking a lot about this and it honestly, Kate, is hard for me to pinpoint one moment because I think there were so many not great moments all stitched together. Yeah. And I just was feeling like I had lost some level of joy in my life. I felt like the things that I thought made me really happy, which were, my family, my husband, my daughter, my friends, and my work. And I kind of felt like, you know what? I don't really feel like I'm actually being awesome in any of those aspects. And somehow none of those are really giving me that joyful feeling that I love. And so there wasn't one particular moment. It was just, I felt like every conversation that I was having with Colin was sort of a grind. Like I felt like I was on eggshells all the time. Even at work, I felt like I was just running into barrier on top of barrier and just always fighting with people in some ways to try to get my point across. And I felt like I wasn't being understood. Like I really felt like I was just like, gosh, am I the crazy one here? I feel like we're not connecting. We're not flowing. And I just knew that is not the way that I should be living life. And so it wasn't one moment. It was just realizing that I'm waking up every day and I'm almost just dreading how many of those kinds of moments are going to happen in my life that day. It sucked.
Yeah, no. And thank you. That's such an honest feedback. I think that happened to me too. That's what kind of gave me that sort of push, which was you keep telling yourself that everything's great, Kate, and it's not. So,
yep.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. So was there anything else that you had tried, or was there anything that you were, any solutions that you were trying to work on that maybe didn't work? Like, had you tried like meditation, or had you tried like, just different things and you were like, okay, that's not getting me where I want to be? Or
yeah, so I always knew that like yoga and meditation and mindfulness always have a really special place for me, right? I know that I need that headspace. And I think I was fighting to get that headspace, right? Even that was becoming a little bit of a battle, right? Because I think Colin and I were trying to jockey for our own free time, right? Because, totally. and I wasn't getting some of that time. And so that wasn't really working out really well. Things that I had tried, I actually still use it now and have started using it more frequently. I bought this thing called a focus journal, which I don't even know why they call it that, but it has a nice structure. It basically outlines like, what are all the goals you want to achieve for, you know, the entire year? And then how do you do things like break down each week into actionable, you know, steps that you can take to achieve your goals? Because then it's like, well, you're not just doing these to-do lists every week, but you're actually doing things to ultimately get to these big goals. And there were a few on there that I actually feel really good about, right? Like one of them was to start this employee resource group for women in supply chain, transportation, and logistics. And I've done that, and we have a really strong charter, and, you know, have already had several events, and, you know, now have a steering committee, and the thing sort of has legs and it's up and running. And I feel really psyched about that. And I feel like it gave me a little of that structure to just say, okay, are you kind of working on this piece by piece each week? But again, I feel like it was sort of a time management tool and a focus tool. Like it wasn't about fulfilling what I now know is like my needs and my purpose, right? It wasn't getting down into the levels that we've been able to get to in this program. So.
That's amazing. Oh, okay, cool. So you're on vacation with your family. You stumble across the Facebook ad, right? You find Corporate Women Unleashed. What were some of and I remember our first call together, were there any fears around, you know, moving forward, jumping in with us, becoming a client, anything that made you had to kind of work through there? Or was it just like, let's do it?
Well, I mean, so I don't know if you remember this, but I was all gung-ho. I was like, my God, Kate gets me. Like, I feel like you know, I mean, you just have such a gift, I feel like, of being able to, you know, kind of parse out, you know, what are pinpoint the areas that somebody has, you know, some opportunity to work on. And so I felt super excited about that. And I was so terrified about making the investment. So terrified. And my gosh, woman, you are like such a genius though, because I think that like once you helped me get over this, like, this is important. Like, you are so all about this. You are so gung-ho. The money is not the barrier. Like, what is it that's holding you back? And I realized that that's exactly what it was. I had never spent that kind of money on myself, and or time or investment. And once I did that, I think that in itself sort of unleashed, like, you know what, I am valuable and I do matter, and I am going to, you know, put this investment in. And I think even just going through that first step was really big for me. But like, and seriously, thank you for that, because I feel like maybe it could have been like, okay, well, you know, this isn't the right fit. Okay, fine. See you later. Like, and that's it. But gosh, this has just been really great. But that was definitely the biggest barrier for me. But otherwise, I was really excited to figure out what this was all about.
I love that you share that, because I think as women, that is really scary for us. We're very happy to invest on everyone else. Our kids need something. Our husband needs something. The office needs something. We're like, right, the house needs something. And then it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm so happy that you did, you know, step through that fear. It's been amazing. Now, what was your word? Do you remember what your word was that you chose?
Flow.
What were you looking for?
Flow.
Right? Look at you.
Yeah, I know. And in fact, so I have, you know, the vision drawing. It's so funny because I feel like I went such a weird abstract direction with the vision drawing too, because, you know, I didn't draw like me and my happy family. Like, I literally pictured me and Colin and Evelyn as like 3 lines that could be separate but also come together. And that's how I wanted us to live our lives, because I think that, you know, Colin and I have always felt like, you know, absence in some ways makes the heart grow fonder. And we've always appreciated our independence, but then also the ability to be super tight and connected together. And I really wanted that for all of us, because Evelyn is such an independent little queen. So, you know, I think it's so wonderful to be independent, but then also be able to come back to such a connected relationship. And so I was really hoping for us to get there. And it was really hard. Like, I felt like we were not there. I felt like, honestly, I was looking forward to the time that I would have away from them, because I didn't feel like I was being my best. I didn't feel like I was bringing out the best in them. And that was honestly what was making me so sad, is I felt like, is this really, will I be better if I'm not with them? Like, this can't be right. Like this, so that didn't feel right. So I remember that drawing means a lot to me. I drew it on Evelyn's blackboard, her little blackboard in her art room. And, I've taken a picture of it and I have it on my phone, and I definitely, it definitely means something to me. So.
Oh, and it sounds like you're using it to pull you forward, that's exactly what it's for. That's huge. All right. Well, let's talk about that. What is maybe one of the first things I shared with you, or that you found when you joined us as a client? I don't know, that made a big difference, or that even was maybe something crazy or uncomfortable, and you were like, okay, Kate, I'll give it a shot.
Gosh, let me see. So, well, I definitely had some uncomfortable moments of vulnerability, I think, on the calls together. I think, you mentioned it today on the call, but I really think this foundation of understanding the needs, and then maybe not getting so hung up in the map, because I initially got super sucked into, I think, honestly, what a lot seems to be happening with a lot of clients and a lot of achievers is, we're like, okay, we have this Excel sheet, we have this homework, we're going to get this work done. And we start to get all stressed out because there are new concepts to us. And so we're trying to make these like big, audacious strategies for these things that are clearly pretty broken in our lives, right? So I think like one of the biggest moments was, I just started having these like micro awareness situations, right? Like, so I was thinking about the needs, and I remember I would think about them in the car. I'd be like, okay, so there's 7 needs, and I would sort of talk through them in my head so that I sort of could memorize them, because I think that made me just learn to understand and recognize them more. And I always started with autonomy, which I think is so funny, because it's just, the ones that in some ways you like are more drawn to are the ones that I'd always remember first, right? And but I remember in particular having one of the first moments of real uncomfortableness was when I had a situation where I had asked Colin I had messed something up. I'd asked Colin for help. I thought I had asked him for help. I basically delegated work to him. He got really upset with me. I thought what I was doing was then being like framing myself in these needs and being like, well, I just need you to help me or whatever. Or no, I think I couldn't even say the words that I needed help. It was like it was a moment where he was pushing me to expose a vulnerability. I didn't feel comfortable exposing a vulnerability. And I think when you and I talked about it on the group call, it was like we went down to that level to really get to why do you have such a hatred for complainers and for people who show vulnerability? Like when you say you have that hatred, it's because that's that's your script. Like what is that? Maybe you were vulnerable at some point in your life and you got shunned or something. And like that, I feel like from there, like I don't hate complainers. I don't hate vulnerability. Like I remember you told me vulnerability is now your superpower. I wrote it in like big words and I like look back at it in my notebook. But that was a big one for me. It was incredibly uncomfortable. I mean, being on calls like this, I think in general I had to get used to how do you connect remotely like this. And I was like, this is going to be weird. We're not going to be able to like connect and really, be able to get this work done. But that call in particular, I think that was a big, there have been a couple, but I feel like that was a big, big moment for me to realize that I could be on this call, be totally vulnerable, have all of these women on the call being like, we got you. Like, I totally feel the same way. Like, you know, feeling like you're not alone in this. I think, I don't know, that was really, that meant a lot as well. I think that just was the initial release, I would say.
Yeah. Well, and I think I remember that moment too, because what was so huge for you wasn't that you hated complainers in yourself.
Yeah.
And
Oh
when
yeah.
you recognized it was you protecting you and
Yeah.
not wanting to be vulnerable, then you were just able to just release that and go, wow, I don't have to live in fear of this anymore. Right.
Yep.
It was
Yeah.
huge. It was
Yeah.
huge. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us about results. Tell us where you're at now. So we kind of have an idea where you're at, but like, you know, relationships with Evelyn, relationships with Colin, relationships at work, or you know, where are you living now where you're like these pieces where you didn't feel like you were really dialed in, you didn't feel like you were, you know, feeling, I don't know, successful or happy in these areas. Like, where are you now?
Well, so I don't know, I just feel great. I just, you know, I feel like I would say that so my relationship with Colin is fabulous, and it has been fabulous. I mean, gosh, we've been married for 13 years this year. So, you know, I feel like we've had a long journey, and we've had a lot of different kinds of moments, right? But I think that I don't know that it's necessarily the best time that I've ever had with him, right? But it is back to being the best, right? Like, it was wrong before. It just didn't feel right. We didn't feel connected. We didn't have each other's back. Mm-hmm. And I would say the way that I love our relationship is how it is right now. And we have each other's backs. Like, I mean, he's about to make some pretty big decisions at work. He's been at this awful job. And, you know, I think I shared with you that, you know, I have these crazy new opportunities coming up with work. And when I shared them with Colin, he started getting a little anxious. And I said, I thought to myself, like, my gosh, hold on, we all have needs. Like, let me let him talk about his needs, which I maybe haven't done before, really, right? And I did, and it allowed him to open up on this whole other aspect of this dream that he has that I think we can totally make a reality for him. And I'm so psyched because he's like, basically negotiating some really cool stuff with this job that he has right now so that he has more time to do the stuff he loves. And that feels really awesome, right? So that feels super. Evelyn is just awesome. Like, she's just amazing. And I think, you know, all toddlers are sort of going to have their ebbs and flows, but it's funny. I'm probably, the shoe is probably going to drop because I've been thinking to myself, like, gosh, it's been so awesome with her lately, you know. So I'm sure we're probably due for some weird spurt where things change. But, you know, it's like we have real conversations about what she wants to do, and I'm thinking about her needs, you know, rather than, okay, let's just hurry up and get out of here. And I just listened to your needs-based parenting, like, as I'm wrapping this whole thing up. And I'm in Boston right now, but I'm actually really looking forward to going and having a conversation with Evelyn and talking to her about like kind of checking in on that unconditional love piece, right? Like, when does mama love you most, baby? Like, you know, I love, because she will tell me, because she's a talker, and she will tell me it all, right? So I'm really curious what she's going to say, and then how, I don't know, I'm like curious to learn what she's going to say, and then what that's going to mean for me, and how we perhaps maybe do need to change things. Maybe she helps uncover things where I'm like, wow, I totally have been possibly setting a script for her, right? That maybe I had been meaning to, but it's even just having that mindset, I feel like, is unbelievable for our relationship, right? So that's like on, you know, my personal side. On the professional side, gosh, I had that, you know, sort of game-changing moment with my boss where things are really great now. Like, they weren't even bad before, but we were still sort of getting to know each other and kind of feeling each other out. And I think having the curious moment that I had with him let him sort of, you know, drop his guard with me and be really frank about what he was nervous about with the project. And since then, there's a ton of work that we've done together, and really together, which has felt really awesome as well. It's is to feel like a partner with my boss, which is, to be honest, that's how I like to operate. I'd like to operate in that type of capacity, as sort of like I feel like I've always sort of been like the right hand chief of staff type of role in that way. And to have that position after, well, I don't want to say it's like super solidified, but I would say, like, I mean, I've been there for a month, Kate. And so, to see these results already, even after just like that one conversation, because it's changed the way that perhaps I approach all of my interactions with him, has been really remarkable too. So.
Yeah. And I think we should pause on that, because that's something you really need to own and celebrate. Because the way we normally step into a new job is what? Let me go prove to my boss I'm valuable. Let me go prove that I'm worthy. Let me work. And even in that instance where you went back to him with curiosity about a remark he made versus, I think that remark made this, so let me go work really hard to demonstrate, right? Like you were able to let that go and actually get clarity because you released fear-based mindset, right? There was no fear around it. It was just, I wonder what he meant by that. Let me go find out. That's huge. And a month later, you're like, I'm kind of priceless now, because now we have this new foundation to talk around versus how are you showing up at work? So I just highlight that because that's huge.
Good. Yeah, that was a big one.
Awesome.
So that's where we're at.
Cool. So fulfillment wise, I mean, it sounds like your career is amazing. And the fact that you and Colin have gotten back to that place, that's really special. But the other thing I loved about what you just said was you're showing up a little bit differently with Colin too, which is allowing him to give more of himself or expose more of himself in a way that maybe before, as achievers, we tend to always have solutions or talk over people, or, we have some of these things that don't always allow our partner and us to be as vulnerable as we could be. So that sounds pretty cool. I love that.
Great. Yeah.
I love that. I'm so happy for you. Okay, cool. Anything you want to share before we wrap up? You've been so generous in sharing your story and your journey, or anything else that you would, share with another woman who's out there watching this, or last words?
Getting over the fear is remarkable. I would say step through that fear.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of nice to live on the other side of that, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is great. Yep.
There you go. And there's your flow right there. Just do your thing. Just no sweat. Life's easy. Get what you want. I love it. You're amazing. Cool.
Yeah.
Jenn,
Thanks
thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you sharing your story. Congratulations.